Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Today, we have a special guest, Jacqueline Tapia, a beautiful Latina that has dedicated her professional life to empowering and supporting women in their professional and personal lives. She is a life coach, a public speaker, an author, and a podcaster, and so much more. Overall, she has transformed her life, and we will be learning about how she has been able to do so. Welcome, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you today.
Oh, it's an honor for me to be here with you, Catherine. I, from the moment I met you, I said, "Oh my gosh, she's such a beautiful soul and so centered." And I love that, have that spirituality that is propelling you to do things. And I love how you held so much space for us for prayer right before this podcast. And I really thank you and honor you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I try to center, God and everything that I do because, everything is possible because of him. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of remind ourselves, even when we're running around, right? Like, oh no,
Right.
we have to go back to the source.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like for me, it's like I don't move without my Lord in my heart. So yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I always open up the podcast asking my guests to tell us a little bit about their childhood. I feel like through many conversations that I've had here in the podcast and offline, I've realized that a lot of let's say behaviors and mindsets and things that are developed, right, when we are growing up, right? Like our parents, our surroundings, right? It's crazy that I'm not sure if you know this fact, but all these behaviors and mindsets are starting from the third trimester of pregnancy. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? So I had to go back and ask my mom. So I'll open the floor for you to tell us a little bit about your childhood and how that kind of shaped you into the person you are today.
Oh, thank you for so much for that question. I tend to do that too with my guests because I feel it's so important to uncover the baby in us, right? So, so I'll tell you a little bit. I actually was born and raised here in the United States from Mexican parents. They came to this country illegally back in my father in 1969 and my mother around 72 or 73, something like that. And they met here in the United States. And their families had known each other back in Mexico. But when my father came to this country, he ended up in Long Beach, California, and my mother happened to be in I think it was in Santa Ana, California. Anyhow, because the families kind of knew each other, they met. And so my mom at the time when she met my father, she was what, maybe around 16 years old. And my mom got pregnant with me at the age of 17. And then they soon thereafter got married. So I'm the firstborn out of four of us. So it's two and two. So I have myself, then I have two brothers in between with my youngest sister. Um, and so one of the things about my family, they really inculcated in me the hard work culture, if you will, that in order to be successful in this country, you need to work hard. And it's been drilled in it's like in my DNA. So I personally have been working since I've been 6 years old, believe it or not, because my parents were very entrepreneur. And so when my father started going into the Mexican food industry, he first was a cook in a Mexican restaurant. And then he noticed this guy that would come and bring all the produce for the restaurant, all the groceries to do the meals for the restaurant. And so he got curious and he decided, okay, well, this is a good job. And so it was a good paying job. So he became a truck driver. and in the food industry. So once he became a truck driver, he then moved up the chain of command in the food service industry to the point that he became a sales rep. During that time, he bought 2 restaurants. And so my mom was working with him at the restaurants. So it's kind of like he was moonlighting from one thing to another. And then finally, he stopped working for that company and then decided to open up his own wholesale food service industry back in 1985, which is called Tapia Brothers, which still exists. It's predominantly known here on the west side of the United States. It was something small, but it's a big company now. And so it's always been about work, 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 work. And so the kids had to work. There was no camps for me, none whatsoever. I mean, I have my daughter, she's 11 years old. She has no idea. She's at camp, and I'm like, I wish I was at camp at her age, but no, I was working at the restaurant, or at that time, yeah, it was still the restaurant, because when in 1985, I was already 14 years old. So it's all about work and the family unit. Everyone, like my aunts and uncles, cousins, everybody worked for the company. And it just really helped us, the community being the family, rise to another level. And that is like the biggest takeaway of my childhood is work. And I appreciate the notion of earning the money, right? Because, you know, from day one, you're not, things are not for free.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get something, you got to work for it. So this notion of working has been instilled in my life since I was a little girl. So while right now I feel like there's a different way of doing it now,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be hard, but that languaging throughout the years has been so indoctrinated in us that it has to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be grit, and there has to be hustle. And I'm in a position now that I'm like, okay, let's dismantle these words.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to be successful, you don't have to work hard. You don't have to deplete your body. You don't have to hustle and grind and push. Because if you live in flow, things can, and flow with our God, things can be easy and free and easily done. So that's a nutshell in me, for me as a little girl. And work, 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 like the song says, work, work, work.
I love it. It's definitely like every time I speak to people about their childhood, it comes up as, now a lesson and a blessing. But I'm pretty sure growing up, you're like, oh my God, like I had nothing, I always had to work and stuff like that. So it's hard to kind of disconnect from that mentality as well and see it as like an asset, right? Something that, kind of builds you into the person you are. And so if you can go back, right, and tell that little girl a piece of advice, what would you tell her?
That everything will always work out. I think there's so much trauma that comes to mind, right? That I think a lot of us hold on to it for a long time, right? And so I always feel now like, telling my younger self back then, it's like, don't worry, things will happen, and they're going to happen magically and wonderfully because you do believe in God, and God is always with you. And so if I really believed that as a little kid, would I feel that the heartaches, the pain, that emotional turmoil, whatever it was, that I could have functioned possibly a little bit better. I would have relieved myself of a lot of pain. But it's something that I went through. Everything is hindsight 22. Now I'm an adult. Now I know better. Now I have a great opportunity to teach my daughter, who's 11 years old, about not keeping everything inside, that everything's going to work out, not holding the anxiety or thinking that you're alone or that you have to be silent. So I want to impart that to all the young ladies out there, that we get to honor ourselves by speaking up and also establishing boundaries, you know, and being mindful and knowing that you're always supported by your highest self, whether that is God for you, or whether it's you or infinite intelligence, whatever that is for you. So just to remember that that is like a light that you can always look towards.
I love that. I really do. Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. I actually, it's crazy how we met. I'm actually thankful. Shout out to Dr. Damari Bonilla for connecting us.
Yes.
And she's amazing.
She is amazing. I love her. Hi, Dr. Damari.
It's, everything happens for a reason, and we kind of connect and intertwine based on like, our purpose, and, we collaborate, and then, things flow and flourish into something beautiful. But, I'm very empowered by your story, right? You were an attorney before, and now look at you, like you have changed your life 360. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and like how that was for you?
Yes, thank you. So I became an attorney in the year 2000. So that makes me 23 years in as a lawyer, right? And I have multiple sclerosis, but I always say multiple sclerosis doesn't have me. And while I was a young attorney, so I'm talking, this is back in 2004, I started getting a lot of episodes that are MS related. But at that time I didn't even know what was going on. But here I am in those years working as a lawyer and being this vivacious young attorney, thinking that, oh my God, I have it all. Like I did the whole, I don't know if you remember, or maybe you were not even, maybe you don't know. Do you know Ally McBeal? Mm-mm. It was like a program. Oh my God. What would be the most current way of saying this to you? It was like one of those lawyer movies where it's like, oh, they go to happy hour and they're always constantly, I was living that life and I was getting really sick. And so, but what am I going to do? I mean, this is all I know. I got trained to do this. The money to pay to be a lawyer. Oh my God. I passed the bar on my first try. I did everything, quote unquote, right for my family and for myself too, because I did want to be a lawyer. But, along the way, I keep getting these messages from God, like there would be like a physical ailment. And I'm like, what is going on? And so, not feeling the legs. That is a thing that happened. Not feeling the legs, not being able to see well, blinking, not being able to drive, not being able to basically take exams because I couldn't see, or I couldn't walk, I couldn't drive. I mean, there was just so many things happening, and I kept going, I kept going, I kept going and kept going until one day it was like masterfully done, because our God always is so powerful and knows far beyond that I could actually see, sends me this powerful message when I was sitting at a conference with this group called Psi. And I was in the middle of this personal development course. And, it was like me dio un flechazo. Like it was like, I even felt like this thing on my heart telling me, Jackie, enough is enough. Your voice is destined for something bigger. Stop playing small. And stop living this micro life. And I remember the instructor at the seminar talking about why, if we all cared about one another, why is it that the most powerful country, which is the United States, we still have poverty? We still can't feed the entire world, which we can, but we don't. And why don't we? Because we keep thinking about ourselves. And it was so powerful, along with that vibration that was getting from our dear Lord, saying, it's time. You got to stop. You got to stop this. And I'm like, what the heck? What do you mean I got to stop this? Like, how can I stop being a lawyer? So that just kind of went into a whole different ballgame. And as a lawyer, you can't just say, peace out, I'm out. Forget you, client, forget you, judge, forget about, you can't do that. You've got these laws, right? You have these duties, these ethical dilemmas, if you will. So at the time I was like, okay, so how's this going to happen? Meanwhile, I was kind of planning my exit strategy as a lawyer, like a practicing lawyer. And at the time I had a law partner who was really noticing how I was and how unhappy I was and how things were just not in alignment. And I really appreciate him. His name is Reyes Valenzuela, which I spoke a little briefly in the book, but it was his support to tell me, like, Jackie, it's okay if you want to exit out and I will help you. And so for a couple of years, I started downsizing my work. I stopped putting my name on pleadings, and little by little, we were able to downsize me in the practice of law. And, once that happened, I then started like, oh, okay, what am I going to do now? What's this new life that I'm going to do? But I kept being open and I kept being awake, and I kept like allowing for the messages from God to come through me. And in one of those messages was like, okay, there was this podcast, and it was my girlfriend, Michelle Soro, who I love her to death, and I owe a lot from her. She had a program called the Podcast Accelerator, which is still going on. And I'm like, okay. And so I just jumped on it and I took the course, not knowing what it was going to be called or what it was going to be. I mean, I'm a lawyer. Like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? Like, it was just like, okay, I was just being led. I was being led. And finally, I was really finding the divine guidance within me. And so, I was doing a lot of work in terms of like studying courses and learning more about mindset and attending all these groups and stuff. And so then the podcast came to life, and it was like, I'm like, oh my God. So now I have a podcast, Amiga Handle Your Shit. And even the name, how that even came about is funny. But I'm still in existence. It started in 2020 and I'm still 140 plus episodes in. And it's like I'm the happiest being on the mic. I love it. I love my guests, and like these kind of interviews, they light me up. And I understand that when I was younger, the law was there for me as intended as it should have been. It taught me a lot, and I honor the practice, and I honor the fact that I became a lawyer, and I honor my clients, the customers, everyone. But at some point in your life, you got to really face the fact, is this still in alignment with me? And it wasn't until 2017 that little el flechazo, I was no longer in alignment with the practice of law. And so here I am. I have a podcast, I have these courses, and now I have a book. And I'm like, who am I?
I love it. I love it. It's such a beautiful story, so empowering. It's must have been very, very hard to do that transition. I could only imagine, right? When you're getting those hints like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and you're like, how, why, like, where, like, what am I gonna do? But you trusted, that hinge and that gut, and here you are. Look at
Yeah.
you. Like, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I realized that, you don't need to learn how to do it. You're just going to do it.
Mm,
It will express itself when it needs to come out. That's just the bottom line. Like when I was in law school, there was the course that you take. One of the courses that you take in law school is tort, tortious claims. And I remember the professor saying always, he would say, the devils are in the details. And
mm,
so in this chapter of my life, I feel like, no, they are not, because the details don't matter, because God has me,
mm,
and it's going to be what it needs to be.
mm. I love
so
that.
so it's really interesting how I had to switch my mindset from
Yes.
one of more ego to one of more spiritual, and more in alignment with my divine guidance. So it's very interesting. One is more ego based than the other one. So I'm happier on the feminine flow base.
I love that. I love that. And I know that you had to make a lot of adjustments, right? And like your routines, your mindset, and things like that to be able to reap, the benefits and be where you are now, right? It's a
Yeah.
constant, I would say, daily journey to,
Oh
to
yeah.
maintain that. Can you share with us a little bit of your routines or habits that you have implemented to be able to exercise and kind of do that transformation really of
Yeah.
having this so structured lifestyle, let's say, right? And now you're so like open, like you have your own business, you have your book, your podcast. Like, how do you do that?
You know, yes, I had a very structured life before. It was like I knew exactly what I was going to do a week ahead of time. And that's because as a lawyer, you are on deadlines all the time. And if you don't solidify or complete a deadline, it's not only on you, but it's on the client that's paying you to do the work. So you got your license on the line. So I don't do that anymore. I don't look 1 week ahead of time. As a matter of fact, I look at my calendar. I'm like, oh, I have an interview with Catherine today. I'm so excited. And it's such a different perspective and flow that I am in love with, because now it's like, yes, I have my calendar. Yes, I still have the logic. That's not going to go away from me. That's just the way it goes. Like, even in the book, you'll find it's very logical, but that's because that's how my brain works. But I felt like I need to mirror both of them. I need them to marry each other, because that is the best me, right? That is the best me. That the logic and the emotional component, the spirituality come together. I have this thing called PIES, which is physical, intellectual, and emotional, and spiritual, that I feel that you have to have all of that connected to be perfectly aligned. So, oh my goodness, I think I have sometimes this happens. I sometimes feel like it's the MS brain coming in, but it was challenging. I'll tell you, it was challenging.
Mhm.
It wasn't the easiest path, but I knew that if I had God in my heart, that it would actually come to the way it's supposed to be. So now every day is such a beautiful day. My routine is different.
Mhm.
Obviously now I don't have to look a week in advance. I actually am very conscious and intentional about the daily practice. I wake up before everyone wakes up in my home, and I actually will spend time with me. I spend time with me, with my God. I do my meditation, and I call that my prayer, because I don't divide them. I think it, to me, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
To me, meditation and prayer are the same. So that's a daily. And I always do something physical every day, especially because of the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. I know what it's like not to be able to walk. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know that I need to keep my body active, as well as my brain, as well as my heart. So now that I can do everything on my time, not on the client's time, but on my time, everything is possible. I really truly believe it. I am in so alignment with my life now than I was before. I always I always call this the 2.0 of my life, because I'm 49 and going into my 50s. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, man, I enjoyed 1.0, but I just have to say that if 2.0 is like this, man, is the best.
I love it. I love it. So amazing. It's beautiful to hear, your story and how like your life has changed, right? And like you said, it's not easy, but you implement these things that ground you and that keep you focused, right? Because I would say from my experience, when you're so, let's say, ambitious and you want to do so much and you want to create, you want to do impact, it's hard to be like, okay, like I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this and I want to do that. And it's like, okay, when do I do it? How do I do it? Like let me organize myself, my thoughts, because you get overwhelmed because you want to do so much. And obviously we all know that if you want to do so much in one time, you're not going to get anything done. So
Right.
it's hard to kind of ground yourself and kind of be able to do that. So, whatever advice you can give us in terms of like those beliefs that you have to set, and mindset, like, okay, I'm gonna do this and structure so I can get things done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it does help that I am a lawyer. So
Oh,
that helps tremendously. Not that I want anybody out there to
yeah, I was gonna
go to
say
law
I'm
school.
just going to be a lawyer.
No need to go to law school, is not required. But I do have to thank the fact that I do have that discipline. But let's even go even further. The discipline that I received as a child in my family to work, because it was really, like I said, I've been working since I was 6 years old. So waking up in the middle of like at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, literally at a job site as a kid, that's structure. So I get to go back to that time, that in order to have structure, you really need to be focused on what you want to achieve, right? I have a formula that I call Amiga. And the first thing that I do is I ask the right question. So if I have a plan, I have a plan to go to Hawaii. I first start asking the first question: how would it feel to be in Hawaii, and how quickly can I do that? So as soon as I start asking those questions, that question over, my mind starts like going into like, woo, manifestation, visualization of how to get it done. So my thought for amigas out there is to really hone in how you ask these questions and feel them through, and then start building the roadmap towards that goal. Okay, so if it's to lose the weight, okay, ask that question: how easy and freeing will it be to lose that weight? Or how easy and freeing would it be to release that weight? So then your mind starts like thinking of ways of getting that done, because it's not hard. It's actually teaching your brain to make it easy. So when you start making it easy, then you start feeling like, oh, okay, now you start building upon one step at a time. So the first step, I already asked my questions. Now I start to investigate, okay, what would make it easy? Maybe I need to hire a personal trainer, or go take a Zumba class, because I like dancing. So maybe I'll do that. So it is really asking those powerful questions, and then allowing you to, when you start investigating how easy it is, then everything starts aligning towards your end goal. And it's so important to do that. And while it starts aligning, you continue to being great and be in gratitude. Always be grateful before it even happens. Before, I'm so grateful. Oh God, I am so grateful. I'm losing 20 pounds. Thank you so much for keeping my body so healthy. Thank you for keeping me in motion. Thank you for sending me these guides to help me keep this body in shape. So it's like for me, it's like it starts with the questions that you ask yourself. And then I keep on going through the investigation, and then you get the gratitude, and then you visualize and have it and feeling it. And then in the end, you're going to be like, holy moly, guacamole. I released all the weight. So it really is a mindset and an explanation. It really, honor yourself, that, and don't lie to yourself. Be truthful. If you feel it's hard, okay, it's hard. Ask yourself why it's hard. Because I believe it's challenging, but hard. I don't know. I mean, says the person who's on this side of the interview.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like everything is possible. The things that, kind of inhibit us. And that actually was my next question for you from experience. Like, what boundaries you think that are in place, especially for women of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
From your experience, right? That we have to battle with. And how have you been able to kind of overcome that?
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say the main right now that just popped into my head is the boundary of that I had with my family. Like, you're throwing away your legal career. And my boundary was like, I'm not throwing away anything. I'm just changing my degree in a different way. It's really about perspective, the way you see things. Because it's kind of, I need to bring my family to start thinking about all those lawyers. President Obama is a lawyer. President Biden is a lawyer. These are all lawyers who decided to stop being a lawyer and went a different path. So I set my boundary by like, you don't get to push me down and shame me for not pursuing what you think I should be pursuing. Instead, what I do is I set my boundary by shifting their perspective on me. It's on them, but I get to show them there's a different way. There's a different way of being the lawyer who I am, but on my terms. So it's like a dance, right? I really had to establish that boundary. And to this day, I still get the little las miradas, those words and whatnot. But I'm a tough person, so I'm not. I feel you don't pay my taxes, you don't give me money, you have no say so.
That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah. If you paid my taxes, then okay, I guess I could hear you out.
if I want.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to hear your story, and I'm curious, from like the life you're living right now, do you feel like you found your purpose?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My purpose is to awaken the souls of amigas across the globe to know that they can and be all that they want to be. And my main thing is to release you from these cultural limitations that confine us, that we've been so indoctrinated to believe in limitation, like no, don't do that, or no. And I feel like now more than ever women are finally waking up. Like, it started off with that Me Too movement, but I really truly believe now the planet is changing. It really is. It's really moving in a direction that I hope that it starts being a lot more divine conscious, right?
Mm.
There's I don't want to, there's polarizing things. I shut down the news. I haven't seen the news in years because, ¿para qué? I
Mm.
already know what's going on. I see it with my own eyes. I don't need to know anything else because those are things that go into your vibration
Mm-hmm.
and keep you stuck and keep you in fear. And I'm not about that. That's why it's so important to really honor yourself and go in nature, go exercise, be with people that want to see you, move up in the world, and are grateful that you're there. I mentioned it in my book. It's like, I'm a lot older than you, but you probably don't know this program. It's called Cheers. And there was there's these group of individuals that would go to this bar called Cheers, and their theme song is like, talks about, you're so glad you came.
Mm.
And I feel like I want to be in groups where they say, I'm so glad you came.
Yeah.
Like,
But
I'm happy you're here. I'm so glad you came. And that's how I feel we get to experience life like that. Like, I'm so glad you came. I'm here, amiga. I want you to be here. I'm so glad you're here. And that's how I feel that as we move across this globe as mujeres, Latinas, amigas, that you walk away from someone that can say, I'm so glad you came here. I'm so glad, because that just goes to show that you're wanted, you're loved, you're cared, you're supported. When you have all those things, nothing can hold you down. Nothing.
I love that. It's so powerful, and it's difficult, because I would say from experience and our cultures, right? Kind of have this like, oh, don't tell people your thing, or don't trust these, like there's a lot of intertwined trauma that kind of is in like drilled into us of like not trusting others, right? So like creating that community also, it's part of the healing process. And I do realize the power in community. And it's so beautiful, like, right here, right? We're part of a community. We're like, collaborating, we're connecting in another way, and there's so much beauty that comes out of that, right?
Right.
um yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I even when I was like practicing law, whether it was in immigration or family law or any other area that I was practicing, I I've always been a part of the Latino community, and observing the patterns and practices, and I kept seeing the same thing
Mm-hmm.
from one client to another to another to another, and I'm like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if I could be the guide to show you that you can have more of empowering ways as opposed to disempowering, how amazing our community would be. I mean, we love our community, but let's face it, a lot of suffering, a lot of and I feel like, no, 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 no. Let's get the riches of the community, and let's break away from the things that hold you limited.
Yeah.
And that's my goal in life.
Yeah, that's a big task. Yeah, I could talk for myself too, like being part of the podcast. I also have podcasts and episodes in Spanish. And the reason why I did this was because I want to be able to inform our communities. Like you said, there's a lot of victim mentality, a lot of limitations, a lot of trauma that people hold, and this is why, people drink every day. This is why, they're always angry. This is why domestic violence and this and that and the other, right? Sexual abuse, right? In our cultures. And I mean, we can go on and on about things that are wrong. And
Right.
the reason is because people, overall, we're told to be in like this box, right? And people don't heal. If we were all healed, imagine how beautiful that would be, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 1000%. I
Yeah.
agree with you so completely. Yeah. It would be so different. It would be so different. There wouldn't be there wouldn't be hunger. There wouldn't be wars. There wouldn't be hate. there wouldn't be any of that stuff. Yeah, I truly believe it. And that's why when I decided, okay, I'm done, I was like, you know what? I want to be a part of a movement that empowers and supports rather than breaks and kills.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You're doing it. And so I know you have like flourished and being able to do and accomplish a lot of goals as a life coach now. How do you maintain a growth and transformation going, right? Like how do you maintain that? Because, where are you going? Like, I mean, you don't have to share the details if you don't want to, but like, what is your goal? Like, and how you keep yourself going? So, for young listeners or Latinas that are trying to create something for themselves, like, how could they build up the momentum, right, to keep going?
Yeah, discipline is very important. I think that, and don't lose hope if you don't see it right away. Because I think it happens. I mean, it happens to the best of us, right? Oh my God, I've been doing, like, I could honestly say, like, I've been doing this for 3 years and nothing and nothing and not, you know what, but then that's dropping myself into a victim mentality. If I have God, nobody could challenge that. No one.
Yes, amen.
Because God sees things that no one else sees. God hears things that I don't hear. And that's why he moves mountains from me. And so that's why I feel like if you have something yearning in your heart, I go for it. Go for it. As we say in the Mexicans, we say, y me vale madre, just go for it. Just,
Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes.
just go for it. Obviously, I used to say burn the boats, but sometimes you can't burn the boats right away. Like in the practice of law, I couldn't just burn them and say, peace out, I'm out of here, because there's obligations. We're still human being, we're living in 3D life, but you start to set in motion. Like my exit strategy was already planned out before I said peace out. So if you're in a job, I know right now they're calling it quiet quitting. Is that what these young kids, they're calling it quiet quitting? I don't know much about that, but what I do know is, for my own sake, is that if I already know where I want to be, I start creating the plan behind it, structure. So the first thing would be like, okay, I do my meditation. I start, I start being that person I want to be. So if I want to be a multimillionaire, I start acting like a multimillionaire. I start associating myself with multimillionaires. I start getting mentors that are multimillionaires. I start collaborating with people that have that same mindset. So mentors, get yourself in those circles, build your strategy ahead of time. I mean, I can keep on going. And
Yes, share as many. I'm taking notes.
yeah, no, I mean, in my book, The Amiga Way, I'm just gonna plug it in right there. I don't know if you could see it. I'll probably not.
I could see it.
So, in my book, I have a bunch of steps and guides and strategies, in most chapters, because and some of them are the same, and so they could be used like the same way. But having a strategy and having the discipline is very important. Businesses thrive when you actually have a strategy already in place, and then you carry it out with your vision. Learn who you are. What are your strengths? If for me, forget me trying to do like a reel that's gonna get a million followers. God, I barely even know how to do like a live. That is not my strength. That's not my forte. Doing the podcast, I have someone already doing the podcast, like all the makings of the podcast. that is not my strength, I outsource that immediately. Even like even when I was like practicing law, I had people help me. Even though money was not coming in, I still had people help me because I totally believed in what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. So I had interns help me with the admin stuff because by God, I hated doing it. Number one. Number two, I wasn't good at it.
Mm.
What I was good at is talking. I was good at arguing. I was good at winning my cases. I was really good in my ego. The best person to have. And then it changed, but the best parts of it have not. The best part of the lawyer me are not. They did not fall asleep. I actually use the strategy. I have the analytical part of me that's still in place. And what I added to all the things is that I now listen to my heart first, because this is what guides me now. My heart is my God, and that is number one in everything I do. So I hope I gave you many.
Yes, I'm taking notes still. I love it. It's beautiful to hear, how aligned you are, and it projects. I really feel like the power, the energy. It's beautiful to see, you light up as you speak about, your journey and how beautiful it has been.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
So, as we conclude, I do want you to share three book recommendations that our listeners could, look up to, grow and transform their life as you did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the number one is my book.
Yeah, Amiga, please get it.
The
I'll put
Amiga
the link
Way.
in the show notes too.
Yeah, the Amiga Way. That is like an easy read. It's got exercises. It really, I had someone read it and make a review and said that it was so powerful that they actually have someone in their community who is kind of like an Oprah, but it's not Oprah, it's attainable.
Mm,
And so I like that kind of review speaks volumes to me.
yes.
Oh my God, I have so many books. Oh God. There's another book that I think is really good. It's called The Audacity to Be Queen by Gina DeVee. And I think it's so, so good. It really helped me in changing the way I think of things and getting super aligned. And let me see, what's another one? God, I have so many. You know what? I'm going to give you just a really cool read. And the author, she's so wonderful. This one is I think it's a either Reese Witherspoon recommendation. It is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. Wonderful woman. I had her on my podcast. Just extraordinary. And she writes so well, and it takes you to a distant land.
Mm,
So
I love
I
that.
think those three.
Thank you
I,
for sharing that. That was
you're
beautiful.
welcome.
I will share the link to your book in the show notes so our listeners could get it.
Oh,
I'm so, honored to have you here and just like this beautiful space that you have created. Amazing, amazing advice that I've taken notes on. And I know that our listeners are going to be blown away with, your story and the way that you've been able to transform your life. Um,
mhm.
I wanted to give you the space to share where our listeners could, find you and how we can support you as well.
Oh, thank you for that. So right now my website, it's gonna look so different in September because they're reworking it. But you can definitely still go into the website. It's called www.jackietapia.com. In my socials, it's my IG is, I gotta look it up. It's at Jackie_Tapia.1. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Tapia. And then also on Facebook, I'm Jacqueline Tapia as well. And email latinaslivingmacro@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And A closing statement for our listeners.
Oh, what can I say? You know, listen to your divine guidance. That is your superpower. And remember that your superpower always has come from our Lord, our God.
Amen. I love that. Amen. Thank you so much. This was beautiful. It's like emotional and spiritual and everything like intertwined. So this was really a treat for me. A great treat to like kind of revamp back on the podcast grind. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your beautiful story. We're honored to have you here, and you're always welcome to come back. We always will love you to have you again.
Oh, thank you so much, Catherine. I really appreciate it. And thank you to your listeners too. And I just wish you the best.
Thank
And
you.
I know, I mean, you're gonna nail it and rock it, and just continue going. You know, I would not be here without people like you who are supporting me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great day.